All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ole Miss After Dark. I'm joined here once again, just like I am every week, with my main man, Hitch, and we're here to bring y'all a breakdown of a wild weekend for Ole Miss athletics. You got the men and women both advancing to the Sweet 16 and basketball, and then, of course, the guys on the diamond going to Como and sweeping the Missouri Tigers in baseball off to a hot start here in SEC play. And we're going to talk about all that here with y'all today. Before we get started, Hitch, how you doing, buddy?
Man, couldn't be better. Like you said, a big weekend all around for the Rebels, and looking to take that momentum into the coming weekend, and kind of reproduce that hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start on the basketball side, obviously. First of all, shout out to Coach O. The women getting to a Sweet 16. She's done an incredible job. Kind of proves that we should have been a host site. They kind of stole that from this program. And Coach Joe, that would have been a huge momentum builder for that program to be able to host that in Oxford. I think people were going to show up and really buy into the program more than they have even watching it on television there. So it sucks we had to go on the road to Waco there. But they went on the road and they got the job done, and they ended up knocking out the host Baylor on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean it kind of was on at the same time as the baseball game there, and we were kind of running around doing different things. I was trying to watch both the best I could, but yeah, I mean, like you said, what Coach Joe's done here at Ole Miss is it wasn't just a few years ago that they didn't have a win in the SEC, and now look going to the Sweet 16, taking on the 1 seed there, UCLA, on the 28th. I guess site is still TBA on the bracket here, but excited for Coach Yo and the girls to go out and represent Ole Miss women's basketball, and like, hey, it's not the past couple of years haven't been a fluke, right? Coach Yo is building something, and she wants to prove that all of the work and effort that her and the previous players have put into the program are paying dividends, and it's good. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And she's done an incredible job. Like I said, she's really built this thing literally from the ground up, right? I mean, nothing but a foundation. And then she started it. And what you're seeing now is her vision coming to fruition. And this is a program looks like it's here to stay too. She's recruiting really well. One thing I love about Coach O, you can tell her players love playing for her as well, right? And that goes over a lot easier as a coach. Your message gets across there. So congratulations to Coach O. We'll be tuning in Friday. I had the women's game on one TV, Outback on Sunday, baseball game on another. So I was able to keep up with both of them there before the men started. So really happy for them to be able to advance on and face UCLA this coming Friday. And then right after that, Hitch, Chris Beard in March. I mean, my God, what more can you say? He does it at every single school he's been at. Comes to Ole Miss, a school with no basketball tradition whatsoever, and he said all throughout the year when we had these tough losses, I'm preparing this team to win these games in March. We need to win games in the regular season to get to March for it to matter, but I'm preparing them to win these games in March. And I'll be damned if he doesn't. I mean, just over and over and over again. Again, whether it be at Ole Miss, Texas, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Little Rock, whenever he gets into this tournament, he is so determined to win, comes up with really great game plans, and just coaches circles around the opposing coach. And Iowa State is no slump, obviously. They have a really, really good year. Chris Beard's like a stoner's best friend. I mean, he is the ultimate grinder, right? Just getting in there and hammering through it and working his ass off to make sure that when the time comes, he has his guys ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Going all the way back to the North Carolina game, you had a dominant performance in the first half, let them back in the second half, and then flip to the Iowa State game, you have a dominant first half performance. I think it ended on not ended on it, but at one point there was a 20-2 run. And then, in the second half, like all but for maybe a couple of minutes there towards the end of the game, it was a dominant performance in the second half as well. And so it was really it's really good to see this team playing really well. You can tell Chris Beard has, 5 guys, 8 guys, whatever, that, he picked these guys for a reason to target in the transfer portal and bring them in. It's because they have, the ability to defend, right? One, a lot of them have the ability to shoot from anywhere on the floor. And that is what wins games in, March, right? Playing defense and being able to shoot. So he's built a team that he likes. And, I don't know much about Michigan State. I didn't watch it play much this year, but I like the Rebels' chances.
So just a quick look ahead. I don't know a whole lot about Michigan State. I've watched them a few times this year, but looking into some of the advanced stats for them, they're one of, if not the best offensive rebounding team in the entire country.
That's
that
good.
Alone presents problems for Ole Miss. But I would also look back at what Ole Miss has done these last couple of games, though. They've really rebounded well. Out of the first 5 minutes against Iowa State, which I'll be honest, I'd gotten a little nervous because they were getting whatever they wanted to on the offensive board. That big guy they had down low was picking any board off the rim that he wanted to. Even we had 4 guys around him, right? But look, they cleaned that up. They got after the rebounds. I don't know what the final stats were from a rebound standpoint, but it felt like we did a really good job securing that up. And then after that happened, absolutely took off from there. 40-29 in the first half, going with an 11-point lead, and then really build on it from there, right? And, it kind of felt like that the final score was not indicative of how dominant Ole Miss was by the end of the game.
Right. I mean, they out-rebounded us by 5. And all of those were on the offensive side. But yeah, you're right. And 2, I think that we have a bad taste in our mouth a little bit because it feels like rebounding, we don't rebound well. And we didn't all year, and that was a bugaboo a little bit. But also, we were trying to rebound in the SEC. I just thought about that. And so, it may be a little bit different here. And, 7 SEC teams in the
Sweet 16, yeah.
Sweet 16, right? So, again, I don't know. The way that Chris Beard has this team playing, I like us over Michigan State. Hey, I told you at halftime last night, I was like, I guess now's as good a time as any to let everybody know I'm on the Rebels money line plus 200 here.
Yeah. Now you waited till halftime though. You weren't throwing that out there right at tip off by any stretch. You're going to see how things went first. One thing Ole Miss has done a really good job of is shooting the 3-pointer. We end up 11 for 19 last night shooting the 3. And to your point, the rebounds, they did out-rebound us by 5, but we ended up on top on the defensive rebounding side, right? They got off that hot start with the offensive rebounds. They out-rebounded us by 5 on the offensive end just in the first half. That's the difference right there. Really tightened that up, though, as the game went on, and they did a really good job. And then same thing me and you said over and over and over again about this team all year long is this isn't a team that one guy's going to go out there and, put up 30, 40 points for you and just take over a game offensively. It's got to be a very balanced attack. And here we are again with 5 guys in double figures, Padula with 20, Dia with 18, Morrell with 15, Jalen Murray with 11, and then Brakefield with 19 off the bench there. Just same guys that's been there for us day in and day out, right? The one you look at would have been Dre Davis. He only had 4, but he only shot it 4 times 2, 1 for 4, shooting the ball. But he chips in 5 rebounds to go with it, a couple assists and a block. So he did other things to help the team out outside of scoring the ball.
Yeah, and just it feels like this team is doing all of the things, and they go out and lay an egg this weekend. But like they don't turn the ball over, right? They haven't turned the ball over all year, really, and that's kind of been a quality for this team. But on the other side, they will they turned Iowa State over 15 times yesterday. And so, again, keep talking about that winning recipe in March. That's another ingredient you add to it, right? If you don't turn the ball over on offense and you turn other people over, you shoot the three well, you shoot free throws well. I know at one point last night we were like 12 for 12 from the line. When Chris Beard said it too, is like when all of these things are going well, the game's really easy. And so you just hope that this team continues that mentality and continues to do the things well that they have been doing well up until now. And if they do, I think we beat Michigan State.
Yeah, kind of to your point there. Ole Miss wins the turnover battle 15-8 against Iowa State. 15-9, Ole Miss wins the assist. And then you look at steals 11-5. So we had almost twice as many assists as we did turnovers. And like we always have, we have done a good job turning them over. Iowa State did not record a single block against Ole Miss last night. That's something else that is pretty impressive. And then to your point about the free throw shooting, 9 for 9 in the first half, 16 for 21 overall by the end of the game. And then you look up, the biggest number that jumps out to me here goes back to the turnover part, points off of turnovers. Ole Miss takes that 20-17, and Ole Miss wins that category by 13, wins the game by 13. I don't think that's coincidence.
100%. Yeah. Keep doing that. Keep doing
Yeah.
all of these things that we're saying do. Keep do those, and we're going to be winners.
Yeah. Just keep listening to us because we've got the recipe over here without a doubt.
Somebody really needs to give us a coaching gig in something. I don't whichever. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, and it's fine. And with buyouts and all, these days they can fire me after 1 year. That ain't a big deal.
Clacky with 4 big minutes too.
Yeah. Look, dude, he plays hard. All right, now you're not going to get much out of him offensively, but he gets out there and he really plays hard.
I don't know if we have to say things, make wild statements like that, but
that's not really that wild.
You're get something out of him. If the other team could keep their hands off of him and stop fouling him every time he touches the ball, then he would do something.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, all right. Well, they didn't foul him enough because he didn't even attempt a free throw hitch. So you might be looking a little too deep into things. It might be a wishful thinking type situation going on there. But look, incredible job by Chris Beard. Rebels in Sweet 16 for the first time since 2001. I still remember watching that game against Notre Dame. Favorite basketball player of all time, Jason Harrison, all 5'5" of him, rising up, hitting that big three to send us to the Sweet 16. I was in 8th grade. Nobody besides you will understand this, Hitch, but I had Coach Warren so pissed off that next day at school because I had the Daily Journal printout of Jason Harrison shooting that three glued to my binder as I walked into history class there in 8th grade. I got kicked out of class for it.
Just obnoxious. I mean, just the most obnoxious thing you could do, but you're also kids.
Yeah, he hated
it. 8th grade. Yeah, he hated most things, actually. That's what I've learned about most of the coaches that we grew up with. They hated everything, including us.
Yeah. Well, they really hated us. But that was fair, though. Well warranted. All right, we are going to shift our gears now to baseball. Ole Miss goes to Como and, quite frankly, did what they need to do, did it in a little different fashion than I expected it to. But they go and they take 3 from the Missouri Tigers. And it was such a weird weekend, Hitch, because the wind was blowing out all weekend. Friday night, it was right field. Saturday, it was left field. Friday night or Sunday, it was out to right field again. And if you just got it up into the jet stream, that ball was traveling all 3 days if you just hit it in the right direction.
Yeah, it really, really was. Weird weekend. Put up a whole bunch of runs, but it still felt like, we'll talk about it. Yeah, whatever. Go.
Yeah, so one thing that I went back and looked at, but because I was curious about it, obviously, was what the starters versus the relievers did, because obviously we threw a bunch of bullpen innings this weekend. And we talked about a lot last week, and we need to start finding some arms out there if this team's going to be successful. I'm going to shift a little bit while also knowing that the wind played a huge role in the pitching for this weekend. But man, we've got to start getting more length out of these starting pitchers on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Elliott and Maddox and Nichols, they only go for 12 innings over the 3 games total for this weekend. In those 12 innings, they give up 17 hits, 15 earned runs, struck out 13, 3 walks, and 3 hit by pitch. The starters have to do a much better job in SEC play if this team's going to get anywhere close to where the ceiling's at.
Yeah, and I think some of that is on Saturday, right when Riley Maddox
Yeah.
had a rough inning there. But I think if you go back and look at that inning, like it started with like 3 very soft ground ball. Like they didn't feel like they were hit real hard. And I think on nights where that's happening, Riley Maddox is going to struggle because he pitches to contact, right? And if there's guys that are hitting, finding holes, then it's going to start. Yeah, I think Friday night, Sunday, Hunter Elliott went 4 2/3. You'd like to see a little more length, out of him on Friday night, especially. But I also think, outside of the bomb he gave up, I don't think that he gave up really any hard hit balls. He pitched out of some jams, and he probably gets you through the 5th, if not the sequence where error, hit by pitch, error. Right, he gets 2 outs in the 5th. And then error on shortstop, error on third base, and hit by pitch on. So maybe he gets you through the 5th there. He gets you into the 6th. But yeah, and then on Sunday, I think Mason Nichols pitched about as well as you could ask for with that wind blowing like that, and then coming back out into the 4th and the 5th. And getting you through those innings. But yeah, I mean, you are right about needing to get a little bit more length and a little more length and a little less contact, right? Because it feels like we haven't really cured the error bugaboo that we had last year. We made a few errors last night, not last night, but this weekend, and it especially on weekends like this where the wind's blowing out in these SEC stadiums, their team's going to put up a bunch of runs if we don't keep the ball down.
Yeah. And speaking of the errors, we had 3 errors on Friday. Now, I will say those were the only 3 errors of the weekend. Udermark, Chang, and Elliott, each with an error on Friday. They cleaned it up the rest of the weekend, which really helped. Elliott's problem right now is he's throwing way too many pitches. Took 87 pitches to get through 4 2/3. And like I said, some of that is the errors coming into play, but some of it's also falling behind in counts. He's getting behind way too often and having to spend way too many of his pitches on each batter to record that out. Now, on the positive side, he's really good at getting out of the jams, like you said, because there were several times where Missouri could have put up way more than the 3 runs he ended up allowing, but he's so good at pitching out of those jams because he's such a good strikeout pitcher with that changeup in particular. Ends up striking out 7 there on Friday. They bring in Mason Morris, 2 1/3, only 1 run there, so he does his job. He did walk 3, which was a problem, but all in all, he was totally fine there. Braden Jones comes in for an inning of work, also gives up a run, but he does strike out 3, doesn't walk anybody. Connor Spencer with a run, no walks, and 2 strikeouts there to close out the pitching stats on Friday night. To piggyback on this starter conversation, like I said, they had 12 innings pitched from the 3 starters this weekend. That means the bullpen had to cover 15 innings. We said they had to find guys to cover those innings, some arms that come out of the bullpen that could find outs. Look, overall, the bullpen did pretty good when you realize how much we asked them to do this weekend over 3 games with the wind blowing out the way that it was. 15 innings pitched, 7 earned runs, which, you want that to be a little lower, obviously. But again, the wind's blowing out so much. There were balls hit on both sides that had no business getting out of a baseball stadium that just carried, right? But in those 15 innings, they only walked 4 and struck out 25 and allowed 12 hits in those 15 innings. Overall, that's a really good weekend for a bullpen that was asked to do as much as they were.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some guys stand out. Kate Townsend, Walker Hooks, uh, first two that pop into mind. Now, look, uh, I think that Mason Morris. I think bringing Mason Morris in at the time that he brought him in was the right move. To do that because that is a high leverage situation that we had
Mm.
talked about. Now, once he got out of that inning and then got out of the next inning, I hate how he managed the bullpen after that.
Yeah.
Because I think Mason Morris was only at 30 pitches. After those two innings, we're up 8-3. Again, same conversation we had last week. Don't rehash it.
Hmm.
Almost the same thing with Braden Jones, right? I mean, he comes in, we're up 9-5. He throws 15, 16 pitches to get out of an inning, and then why not let him come out and finish it when you're not in a save situation? Why
Well,
have Connor Spencer come in and burn that those 20 or 25 pitches that he had to throw on Friday night when he
mhm.
made you use him in a high leverage situation later. But
Yeah.
it worked out. We came up with the win. I think the bullpen pitched great. The
I do too.
only issue was maybe how he used it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and look, to his credit, he did get Braden Jones out of there on Friday night and allow him to come back on Saturday in a big spot as
Yeah.
well. They're trying to get through that when they had runners on base. He had threw 17 innings on Friday and then another 15 on Saturday. You can manage that when you keep pitch counts that low, and that's something I think you're going to start seeing as the weeks go by in SEC play. Going to find guys that can pitch multiple times on the weekend. I'm glad you brought up Cade Townsend. Again, this is what 2 out of 3 times that he's looked really, really sharp out there. Hitch. It's a guy that we've talked about a couple times. I think me and you are both pretty high on this kid. So got to start getting him in a few more games. I think this is a useful arm that we're going to be able to use on the weekend in SEC play, and I think he's starting to prove it.
Yeah, I'd love to see him or Walker Hooks in that
Yep.
that we're talking about, on Friday night, when we're up 5 runs and, Mason Morris has navigated through 2 innings really with 30 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two guys, right? That because
Yeah.
it seems like Mike trusts those two guys right now for what they've done in the past, and then I guess what he's seeing in practice and stuff too. But yeah, I'm with you. Those are the two guys that I'd like to see get some higher leverage opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm going to throw Alex Caney and Landon Waters into that group as well. I've been really impressed with Caney. He doesn't go up there and just blow you away with his stuff, but he doesn't give up hits and he doesn't give up runs. And if you're not doing either one of those, then you can pitch for me, right? He just goes up there and he pounds the strike zone, gets strikes, gets outs. Landon Waters, this is the second straight performance that I felt like he has pitched well. When you look at the numbers, he gave up the 2 earned there in 1 inning pitched on Saturday, but no walks, 2 strikeouts, only took 15 pitches to get through that inning. Get into some more normal weather scenarios, and I think those numbers look a little bit better with that efficiency. But again, he goes out there and he pounds the strike zone. His stuff looks pretty good. I think that's a guy that can come in and cover an inning for you on the weekends as well.
Yeah, well, and two, also you have to remember when you're up, right? Like you're up 8-5, and like on Friday
Mm-hmm.
you're up by a bunch of runs. You've got guys in there just filling it up, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
throw the ball over the plate and let them hit it, and let's get this game over with. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna have guys run into a Braden Jones fastball or an Alex Canny cutter at a certain point, and so some of these guys may have some inflated numbers when you look at it. But when you add context, right, it's not nearly as bad
Yeah.
or as ugly as it looks.
Yeah, yeah, and to kind of wrap up the bullpen talk here, Will McCausland comes in on Sunday. 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, only 1 earned run. Again, no walks, 6 strikeouts. Will looks really good. This is obviously an arm that Ole Miss is going to use out of the bullpen going forward as well. He's looked good several times throughout the year. Kind of feels like more than anything, he's settling into the midweek bullpen and Sunday bullpen guy. That seems to be where Mike is wanting to use him in those 2 situations.
Yeah, and that works. I mean, a guy throws strikes, and
Yeah.
he goes out there and does that, and that'll get you some playing time out there on the bump.
Yeah. Let's switch over to the hitting side real quick, Hitch. Obviously, a lot of guys hit the ball really well over the weekend. I'll let you pick whoever you want to talk about. Ryan Moorman, Luke Hill. I thought Federico played good even after getting slid down into the lineup for Saturday and Sunday. Udermark felt like maybe he broke out a little bit. You still saw a lot of swing and miss in him throughout the weekend. Will Furness coming off the bench every time a righty came in absolutely obliterated the ball. And then the SEC Player of the Week, Isaac Humphrey. Luke Chang had a good weekend at the plate coming back from his concussion protocol. And Mitchell Sanford just continues to hammer the ball as well. Up and down this lineup's gotten deeper and deeper as the year's gone on, it feels like. And kind of feels like we've got a 1 through 9 that's pretty damn dangerous.
Yeah, and I think even though scoring a lot of runs Friday night, I think there was still a lot left on the table. Outside of that, Saturday and Sunday, I think we did a really good job of what we talked about needing to see this weekend of when you get the opportunity to have a big inning, you have a big inning. Friday night, we didn't do that. We had one big inning on Friday night, and the seventh finally broke through for 4 runs. But in the second inning, we had runners on, then strike them out, throw them out, strike them out. We only get 1 run out of it. Then the third inning, the fourth inning, we end up in the 8th inning and the 6th inning. You got bases loaded, nobody out. You don't break through. You get a run here, a run there. But that saying that, everybody got on base at a great clip. I think we got the big hits on Saturday and Sunday. It just felt like on Friday night we couldn't come through with that big hit. But we didn't let that, hang around with us over the weekend. And yeah, man, talk about you're 100% right. Talk about whoever you want to in this lineup. Will Furness making Mike Bianco look like a damn genius. Every night. Luke Hill, only has 3 hits, but he's got 6 walks. Right. So then
he had that damn ball he hit out to the wall in right field that bounces out of the right fielder's glove up in the air into the center fielder's glove too. That ball was absolutely smoked after the right fielder ran into the wall. I've never seen anybody hit the ball as hard as Luke Hill and have as much bad luck as him at the same time.
Yeah. And Chain, right? You said Chain, right? Yeah. I think he's a couple
First
of hits
away of the year on Sunday.
Oh, please stop doing that.
It is.
And you mentioned Udermark too, right? He had he had a few strikeouts one night, if I remember right, but then he turned right back around and ended up with 3 walks the next day. Ended up with 5 walks on the weekend. And he hit the ball that he hit cut through the wind. There's no that ball wasn't getting stopped by the wind, but yeah. And then Isaac Humphries, the big number that I wrote down here is 13 RBIs. He had almost as many RBIs as he had at bats this weekend. So
yeah. And to your point on Udermark, he finishes the weekend with 5 walks and 4 strikeouts. If we get through a weekend with Udermark walking more than he strikes out, this lineup's going to put up a ton of runs, and that was evident again this weekend.
Going back to Luke Hill, he's the only player, if my numbers are correct, that didn't strike out this weekend.
Okay.
And I think, if I remember this right, he's at 106 plate appearances on the year, and he struck out 8 or 10 times.
Jeez.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a pretty good baseball player. So again, Rebels do what they need to. Took 3 in Como, brings them to 4-2 overall in SEC play to set up a weekend matchup starting on Thursday this week. This is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series against the Florida Gators, a team that's got their back against the wall. They're really reeling right now. I'm going to bring this up, Hitch, and we'll look at what happened throughout the SEC this weekend. This is from SEC Baseball on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Alabama takes the first game against Tennessee on Thursday night. Tennessee back ends that series, winning the final 2 games to finish the weekend 2-1 against Alabama. The slide continues for Texas A&M, the preseason #1 team in the country, now 0-6 in the SEC as well. Auburn travels to Kentucky, takes 2 out of 3. This Auburn Tiger team has really played well, and that's no surprise. Year in and year out, they always find a way to win games. As I mentioned, Georgia just pummels Florida down in Gainesville. They go down there and score like 50-something runs in 3 games, I think it was, to drop Florida to 0-6 in the SEC. Also dropping to 0-6 in the SEC, the Missouri Tigers, we just talked about. Ole Miss goes to Como, sweeps them. So that gives you 3 0-6 teams so far in the SEC this year: Florida, A&M, and Mizzou. I could have guessed one of them. No chance on the other 2 before the year, though.
Florida.
Arkansas. Arkansas does their job. They sweep South Carolina at home. Really going to hurt looking back on that, but at the same time, you're glad you got one against Arkansas, right, last Friday night. But that Sunday one's going to sting all year long. Just feels like one we're going to be looking back on a whole lot because Arkansas is really, really good, and that would have been a hell of a feather in the cap to have a series win over the Razorbacks. Mississippi State continues their struggles after getting swept by Texas last weekend. Travel to Norman, and they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Sooners. That drops them to 1-5 overall. And if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to pull up the schedules, trying to work off the top of my head here. I think they go to Baton Rouge next week, if I'm not mistaken. So rough road ahead for the Bulldogs. And speaking of LSU, they traveled to Austin, and that was a really fun series between them and Texas. I don't know if you got to watch any of that, Hitch, but it was back and forth most of the weekend. And Texas able to take 2 out of 3 from the Tigers.
I didn't get to watch it, but man, that LSU, I mean that not LSU, the SEC is upside down, man. It's going to be crazy this year.
Yeah, and the new polls came out. Ole Miss is ranked 15th in the SEC, or 15th in the country, which is good for 10th in the SEC right now. 10 of the top 15 teams are SEC teams. Ole Miss being 4-2. I'll pull this one up for you to look at, Hitch. 4-2 right now in conference play. That is good for if the SEC tournament were to start today, we would be the number 10 seed at 4-2. That's how good this conference is right now. You see Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas all off to hot starts 5-1. And then this hodgepodge there tied at 5 with a 4-2 record: Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. All there at 4-2. Kentucky at 2-4. Mississippi State and South Carolina, they're tied at 12th at 1-5. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Florida, Missouri, Texas A&M sitting at 0-6. Do you see any surprises here, Hitch? We talked about Florida and A&M being 0-6. Anybody else kind of jump off the screen at you, though?
Kentucky, right, at 2-4 right after the year they had last year. I didn't know what to expect out of them because it felt like they came out of nowhere last year and just played this crazy brand of baseball that irritated.
It was
everybody.
A really frustrating brand of baseball. Like it's fun when you work playing them. When you were watching them do it to somebody else, it was a lot of fun to watch, or it was for me. But man, I hated it when we had to deal with it.
Yeah, and I mean, but outside of Kentucky, being 2-4 and not really knowing which way they're gonna go, I think Georgia being 5-1 is a little surprising to me, just because of how badly they've pitched. I guess that just goes to show how good that offense is, and
it is
going to be a lot of fun for SEC pitchers. But outside of that, I knew Alabama was going to be good after watching them last year and just knowing who they had coming back. Outside of Missouri, I'm not Missouri, but outside of Florida and A&M being there at 0-6, I think on the other side, Georgia being on 5-1, didn't expect them to be 0-6, but being 5-1, looking at their pitching numbers, that means that offense is sure enough impressive.
Yep, sure is. So, all right, before we get out of here, we got to do our players of the week. I will give you the freebie, Hitch, and you can go first. Who is your player of the week for the Ole Miss Rebels?
Now, Isaac Humphrey, 6 for 15, 13 RBIs, 4 home runs. Right? Just give
SEC player of the week.
Yep, and also, more importantly, Ole Miss After Dark player of the week.
That's right. And former Ole Miss After Dark
Friend of the show, friend of the
guest as
pod.
well. Yeah. Friend of the show. So had him on back after he committed to Ole Miss once he had first gotten back into town. So shout
Oh,
out Isaac.
hey, yeah, the next time that we have him or somebody on, and if I'm not here, I noticed Judd Utermark when he got back to the dugout after hitting that home run,
Mm-hmm.
he reached out of his like cubby or whatever and pulled out like this leather bound notebook, and I guess he was
Yeah, I
going to
saw
write
that.
something in it. I need to know what he's doing. I need to know what's going in that notebook. Right? Like,
Okay.
is it
Yeah.
does he write in it every at bat? Does he after he gets a home run? Is he like writing poetry? Like after he hits a home run, he's running the bases, he's writing sonnets in his head. Like I don't know what is going on, but I need to know what's going on in that book. It was so
All right.
intriguing to me.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna start digging into that, and I will have you an answer. How about that?
Perfect.
All right. My player of the week for Ole Miss this week, I'm going Will Furness. He goes 5 for 10, 1 home run, 1 double, 5 RBIs, 5 runs, and more impressively, Hitch didn't start a single game over the weekend. Ended up starting Colin Reuter for Saturday and Sunday. Missouri threw 3 lefties. Kind of seems to be the way that Mike's going to play this, starting Reuter against lefties and not going to be scared to bring Furness in at the first sign of variety. And right now, Furness is hitting everything in sight. So as soon as you can get him into the game, you need to. This weekend was another example why I hit 500 again with bomb, a double, 5 RBIs, 5 runs. Great job, Will. Another friend of the pod. So we're basically just picking people that's been on the show before.
Yeah, and that's the theme of this. But yeah,
That's
I mean,
right.
I think, yeah, great pick. I mean, 7 for 12, right? 12 plate appearances, was on base 7 times, and that home run that he hit, that threw him. That was at a big spot.
Yeah.
And so like again, making Mike look like a genius. Yeah, it was
That's
Saturday
because
and
he is a
Sunday.
genius.
We're good. Well, yeah, I mean, he's a coach. I'll say that of a baseball team.
Yeah.
He does
He's a
smart things
national
sometimes.
championship winning coach.
He is a
That's
national.
what
He
he is.
does. And yeah, look, you're not going to be right 100% of the time. Like, I get it.
That's right. That's right. So, all right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Probably going to be a pretty busy week here on Ole Miss After Dark. Probably going to have a few shows coming y'all's way with everything going on right now. We've still got to come back and do a show for y'all about the Florida Gators coming in town. Again, that starts on Thursday, so we're going to try to have something out to y'all by Wednesday on that. And
Tim
then,
Tebow will be on the
again,
show for that. Tim Tebow will be on the show
he
for
is more
that.
than welcome.
Mm-hmm.
He is more than welcome to come on the show. I will not go easy on him, however. I don't care how big of a name he is. I'm not going to sit here and listen to him talk up Florida while they're sitting 0-6 in the SEC. It's not the kind of
Right.
guy
Yeah.
I am.
Mm-mm.
Not what I do. So, but we again have Sweet 16
No,
going
you're not
on.
going to do that. He can. I mean, Tim Tebow can stand there and thump on his Bible with his John 3:16, but Dids 3:16 says you're not going to come in here and talk all that. I got you.
No, I'll come up there and I'll whip your ass. Is what's going to happen.
Got you.
And the glass, when you hear that glass, that's your ass Hitch. You know how it goes.
Yep. All right. Yep. Tim, here we
That's
come.
right. So, but we're I've got some interviews in the works as well. Talk some Ole Miss basketball, Sweet 16 coming up here on Friday. Another fun-filled weekend for Ole Miss fans, though, and quite frankly, I know me and you fall in this category. All of our listeners fall in this category. We deserve these couple of weeks that we're getting with all of the success in athletics because we've spent our entire lives putting every bit of emotion and everything into it. It's nice to finally see it pay off a little bit, and this is a lot of fun. And I'm going to ride this wave until it dies. So, and hopefully that's not going to be until both men and women are hoisting national championship trophies at the end of the Final Four. They're both playing good enough right now. They both play incredible defense. Defense travels no matter where you're playing at. So it's going to be a lot of fun to follow them, and we will try to bring y'all coverage from that as well. And Hitch, we will talk to you tomorrow, Wednesday, whenever. Ain't got a clue. We pretty much do this on a whim, so I'm sure that's how we'll handle the rest of the week as well.
Probably talk to me whenever Tim Tebow claps back. You know, it's probably when you'll figure out how that goes.
Bring it, Tim. I ain't scared of Tim Tebow. All right, buddy.
man.
We'll holler at you later, bud. I appreciate it.